Howdy folks, hope everybody's doing well this morning. Today's soap is brought to us from Flagship Grooming. There we go. Captain's Pipe. Uh, really nice, guess you might say, tobacco scent. It's a little on the sweet side, and decided to go ahead and follow up with Yulay's Durham Green. Thought those two would play well with each other in the way of scent. Blade of choice today. I'm using a blade it's a Personna blade, but it's out of a dispenser. It looks like this right here. So I've got the lather whipped up here, my Crown King scuttle. With this brush here is an Omega boar brush. I think the model, if I remember off the top of my head, is 20102. Anyway, I've got a link down below to all this stuff. This is got a really nice loft to it, a lot like the Professional. Almost drippy, not quite. It has been thickening up since I started. Really nice lather this morning. Shaver of the day. This one here is, I guess you might say, I've been waiting for the post office, where they've been bouncing it around all over the United States, it seems like. But it finally ended up in Oklahoma. But I have the Global Shave. This is the Fat Guy. This is their take on the Gillette Fat Boy. I tested it out in the way of opening the doors, close the doors, just up and down, up and down, up and down. Everything seems to work just fine. Looks really nice. So when I use this today, we'll start with setting 9. When I use this today, I'm going to be treating it just like I would any other shaver, but not necessarily comparing it to just that Fat Boy, as opposed to how does it shave, how does it work, is it going to work as expected? And that's, I guess you might say, that's how I'm going to approach it. For me, I gave it some thought, comparing it to the Gillette Fat Boy and the Fat Guy, comparing, doing a side by side and whatnot. But I was thinking more along the lines that for some folks, they may not have any experience with the Gillette Fat Boy. So the Fat Guy, in other words, may be their first one like this. And then probably might need to know more about how does it perform on its own merit, as opposed to a comparison. And I'm pretty much, convinced, without even using it yet, that it's going to perform just fine. Otherwise, I don't think the reviews that it's been getting would have been as positive as it has been. Went ahead and wet the razor there. Like I said, we're going to start on setting 9. Oh, guess I better put some lather on, huh? I've been really excited about this. The post office, USPS, I'm not sure what all happened. I don't know if it was more of was it intentional? Was it by design? Accident? The tracking number, when it first started showing up, showed up in Indiana, which is fine. It's got to have some place to start. But as time went on, it was very slow to, I guess you might say, to update or change from Indiana. Stayed in Indiana for several days. Then it finally decided to change, and it updated, and it went all the way to Grapevine, Texas. That's near Dallas, Texas. And I'm in Oklahoma. So in other words, Indiana's north from where I'm at. It bypassed Oklahoma, went all the way down past Oklahoma to Texas, and then came up from Texas back up to here. So I don't, like I say, I don't know if that was by design, if something went wrong and that's just how it had to go. In other words, the assumption is, and it could have been, that there may be some mechanical type issues with the route that they would normally take, and maybe something happened where they couldn't send it that way, so it ended up having to go all the way to Texas before it come to Oklahoma. It's hard to know. But I know it seemed like it set in Indiana for about, I'd have to look again and make sure, but I think it was 5 days. It's not the first time I've seen something like that happen, especially here late. It does make you wonder if they're a bit overwhelmed. Thing is this tracking, I think the tracking number started November the 11th. And it shows up on Saturday. And today's Monday. Not complaining too terribly much, though. Finally got it. I was very, in other words, I'm being patient. I know, when you get on the front end of a Kickstarter or whatever it happens to be, and a crowdfunding type situation or anything like that that's a pre-order, I expect there's going to be some hiccups along the way, delays and all that sort of thing. I'm quite all right with that. But once that tracking number gets issued and it seems just to not budge, not move, I understand, in other words, it's coming from Canada, so it may be a delay. And, Sheldon said that there would be a delay, and I was quite all right with that. But when it hit Indiana and then it just kind of stopped, just had me wondering what on earth is going on, because it's not the only shipment of recent history that I've had that happen. And, yeah, it's, I guess you might say, a little frustrating, because thought things would be running just a bit better. If you haven't noticed, at least I've noticed this morning, this shaving soap is doing really well. Lathered up pretty easy, and this is the first time I've used this brush, so quite impressed how well it's already doing without even, spending an extensive amount of time getting it to broke in. All right, just like in case you're unfamiliar with the Gillette Fat Boy, the fat guy, need to loosen those doors up just a tad bit. And I'm going to change the setting from 9. Oh, why not? We'll just go to 7. There it is. Go ahead and close that back up. 9 felt what I expected. You do have a blade feel on 9. It still went pretty smooth. Going on 7. Let's see how this one works out. 7, there's still a little bit of blade feel. Of course, not near as much as 9. I guess you might say what I was expecting. For me, for what I'm used to, 9 has, like I said, it's got quite a bit of blade feel. For some folks, in other words, if you really want to try aggressive but comfortable, 7 might be where you want to be at starting out. 9's got quite a bit of blade feel. It doesn't bother me, but if you're not used to it, it could be an eye-opener in the morning. But 7 might be a good place to start for some folks. It looks like right down there, don't know exactly what it is. It comes up every once in a while, a spot right there. It's like a skin tag or something of the sort. It gets knocked off every once in a while. In other words, not the shaver's fault. It's just a part down there that it just comes up every so often. I usually catch it with when I'm shaving with a shavette or a straight razor. Yeah, setting 7's actually, like I say, it's aggressive, but not over the top. Not a whole lot of the blade feel. It's got less of the blade feel than a 9. So it's adjusting, like I say, I tested and made sure everything was moving up and down like I expected to. But is it moving at the rate that you think it should? In other words, it might move, but is it moving at the increments that it should? I've seen some adjustables. Yeah, it moves, but not quite like it should. All right. Open up the doors. Just loosen them up just enough. And we'll go from setting 7, drop it another 2. We'll go to setting 5. And for me, for what I'm used to, bet you that's going to be pretty smooth. If you're looking for the exact replica of a Gillette Fat Boy, there are slight differences with this one. If you hadn't seen any of the reviews or comparisons or anything, as a you can see the look at a Fat Boy and look at the fat guy and the fat guy. There's just slight differences. For instance, down here on the knob, knurling, there on a Fat Boy, there's this part right through here is a little smooth. Got a smooth part through here, and the adjuster knob is slightly different. In other words, it's not exact by any means. But is this a nice shaver? Yeah, it's a nice shaver. Quite happy that I got it. All right, so we're once again setting 5. Blade's working pretty well. Now against the grain, a little bit of feedback. Still pretty smooth though. Personna is my one of my go-to blades. It comes, this particular shaver comes with the Shaver Boy blades. I never used them before and thought I should probably at least use a blade that I've used before so I can do some sort of comparison, if you will. All right. Guess you might say this is going to be the real test. How did it do on the beard reduction? I didn't really speak much, from pass to pass, but yeah, that's pretty efficient. I typically, when I use an adjustable shaver, I have a strong tendency not to adjust whatever the setting might be. Sometimes I'm all right with it, that's what I want to do, but typically it's whatever shave that I feel like having. So in other words, the 9, the highest setting, or if I want something a little bit smoother, might start at a 7 or maybe even at a 5. It just really depends on what kind of mood I'm in and what kind of shave that I'm looking for that morning. Just going through the normal routine, yeah, it's pretty efficient. Like I said, it works just fine. It works as expected. It's pretty nice. Now, over time, it is an adjustable. There are moving parts. Is it going to develop an issue like any other adjustable? Just have to wait and see. To me right now, it seems like it's working quite well. That was a pretty nice shave. There's not a whole lot left. In other words, those settings work pretty well for me. Start out. Now, I should mention one of the things that crossed my mind before I started the shave. And not everybody starts with the highest setting and work their way down. Some start the other way around. And the reason why I was kind of thinking, for me, starting with the highest setting and work your way down, is because of the fact that usually against the grain pass is where most folks get their irritation, or where it's most uncomfortable for them. And so if you're doing it with the grain as opposed to against the grain, that perhaps that's the better process, I guess you might say, for some folks. For me, I don't have quite the problem with against the grain pass. So in other words, if I was to leave it at a 9 all the way through, which I've done in the past, yeah, it's not an issue for me. But for some other folks, against the grain pass, especially on the neck, is just not a good thing for them. So in other words, have an adjustable razor. If this is the only razor you have in your den, yeah, adjustable razor is a great way to go, because you can adjust it on the fly. You don't necessarily have to open those doors up all the way, just enough so the adjustment has the freedom of movement that it needs. Believe it or not, it didn't hardly have any stinging. Even down here where it was starting to bleed just a little bit, it didn't really sting much. It's not there anymore. It's gone. It got removed. Boy, this nice cooling effect on a morning like this. Low tonight, or this morning, 30 degrees. In other words, it's down around freezing. Uh, for me, just having that on my face feels, going that contrast from warm lather to that cooling effect is pretty cool. I like that. Durham Green. I got a link down below for this. Now, I say I have it's to Van Yulay's website, and all of her aftershaves are like witch hazel based. Doesn't have alcohol in them, and they are the kind that you really need to shake up beforehand. I really do like this scent. This is one of the, I guess you might say, first scents that I bought from her, from Monica, and it's not an exact match for a Captain's Pipe by any means, but I think it'll play well. It really does. Right out of the container. By the way, that's what the restrictor looks like. It smells great. This is a plastic container, so if glass is one of those things that bother you having in your den, this might be a good choice, especially if you're not a big fan of having alcohol on your face. This stuff feels pretty good. I've always been a big fan of her aftershaves. To me, they work well. To me, it doesn't matter one way or the other. Do I have to have an aftershave that has alcohol? I don't have to have it one way or the other. I'm more after, well, how does it make my face feel? And then secondary is do I appreciate the scent? Because I've got for instance, I have a Barbado, and matter of fact, I plan on using it this month. Barbado is supposed to have a citrus scent. My nose doesn't pick it up. I don't smell citrus at all, but I really do like how my face feels when I put it on. For me, I can just tell it's going to work, doing its thing as soon as I put it on. And it's a lot like this here. I can feel it going to work. In other words, the skin food, whatever it's supposed to do to the face, it does feel good. My face feels wonderful afterwards. With some of the aftershaves, depending on what kind you get, especially the more inexpensive ones, say like, for instance, don't think I have it handy, Barbasol, for instance. It's like $1.95, $2.19, whatever the case is. It's inexpensive, but it's got a lot of alcohol in it, and it does what it's supposed to as it goes for any kind of open cuts that you may have, little nicks here and there. It does fine for that sort of thing, but as it goes for moisturizing your face or anything like that, it doesn't do that. Another good one that's inexpensive, and I say inexpensive, in other words, right around the $10 mark, just like I can find Van Yulay's aftershave, is this stuff here. It is really surprising when I've got some shaving cream right there. Really surprising first time I tried this. It feels great on the face. It's a bit different. I can't remember. It's got something to do with potato. Is it potato starch or something of the sort? It's got something very unique in it. Anyhow, it works great on the face also. And $10, in other words, it's not breaking the bank, and you're getting a good product. What can I say? Works pretty well. Go ahead and show you what this blade looks like. If you're unfamiliar with the Personna blades that come in a dispenser like this, it's pretty well, they're not marked. The blade is, I guess you might say, somewhat plain. It does say that it's made in the U.S., but it's pretty much just a plain looking blade. The arrows on it, because when you're unfamiliar with a dispenser like this, it shows you which way you need to go, and every other blade you push a different direction. So one blade, you'll come out one end, then the other blade comes out the other end, and it's got a place on the back side where you can put all your used blades if you want to use it like that. That's what it looks like there on the inside. And when the doors are open, that is what the knob looks like on the inside. In other words, you'll be able to see the threads right there. So once you close it back up and look on the underside, it's pretty good. They did a great job. Like I said, when they first started this, It was at a somewhat lower price than what's being offered right now, but it's still a good buy. I'm quite impressed with it, happy with it, glad I got it. It's a nice shaver. Hope everybody's doing well. Stay safe, stay healthy, and smooth shaves to you.